Senator.
Did you hold up a big sign saying that you were lying when you said that? Because you are the one who said you would not take them away.
You want me to indicate a product for which there is no clinical data?
Do you believe COVID-19 was politicized?
Yeah, the whole process was politicized.
It's really a frustrating process, and I don't think the medical community is really learning the lessons of this, which is kind of frustrating.
8 out of 10 of our kids cannot qualify for military service. This is a national security issue. When my uncle was president, we spent 0 on chronic disease.
Under your tenure, the health has deteriorated in this country ridiculously, exponentially.
The NeuroTrition Podcast is sponsored by North Florida Spine and Wellness and produced by Juming Delmas Studios. Okay, so moving on from that, where we really saw some fireworks moving forward was, shortly after a lot of these things happened, Secretary Kennedy had to go in front of Congress, and he did not hold back. There was some great clips. This was probably one of my favorite ones when Elizabeth Warren kind of challenged him on some of his decisions.
Will you tell America that all adults and all children over 6 months of age are eligible to get a COVID booster at their local pharmacy today?
Anybody can get the booster.
I'm sorry?
Anybody can get it, Senator.
Anybody. So you're saying that is now the official rule of HHS. Anybody is eligible to get a booster by just walking into the pharmacy.
It's not recommended for healthy people.
No. If you don't recommend, then the consequence of that in many states is that you can't walk into a pharmacy and get one. It means insurance companies don't have to cover the $200 or so cost. As Senator Dr. Cassidy said, you are effectively denying people vaccines.
We're not going to recommend a product for which there's no clinical data for that indication. Is that what I should be doing?
What you should be doing is honoring your promise that you made when you were looking to get confirmed in this job.
You're going like this.
And that is, you promised that you would not take away vaccines from anyone who wanted them. You just changed the classification of the COVID vaccine.
I'm not taking them away from people, Senator.
It takes it away if you can't get it from your pharmacist.
Well, most Americans are going to be able to get it from their pharmacy for free. Most Americans will be able to get it from their pharmacy for free.
The question is everyone who wants it. That was your promise.
No, I didn't. I never promised that I was going to recommend products for which there is no indication.
When you said...
And I know you've taken $855,000 from pharmaceutical companies, Senator.
Did you hold up a big sign saying that you were lying when you said that? Because you are the one who said you would not take them away. Now, Senator Kennedy,
I'm not taking them away from anybody.
Secretary,
you want me to indicate a product for which there is no clinical data?
Senator,
is that what you want?
Secretary Kennedy, you said you wouldn't, and now you did.
I'm not taking them away. Everybody can get access to them.
No, they can't walk into a pharmacy the way they could last month and get access.
It depends on the state. It depends on the states.
A year ago,
but they can still get it. Everybody can get it. Everybody can get it, Senator.
So look, let's move on.
What's your take on that?
I want $850,000. Yeah, I can't watch these clips. So because that's what attorneys do. Have you done a deposition before?
Yeah.
Yeah, they jump forward talking in circles, and they keep trying to nitpick this one statement, even though it's not even correct. And she sits there and berates him the whole time. And he's just like, people can get it. People can get it for free. And she's assuming all insurance payers are going to stop paying for it. They make money off this stuff. They own the formularies. They own the PDAs. Like, everyone's making money on these things, but you don't have to force it down anyone's throat.
Can we go to the point that, look at the point that you're here trying to berate somebody for following the science, right? That was the whole point. He's like, you're asking me to recommend something that has no clinical data. I mean, that would be, imagine if, all of I went on there and was berating somebody because they weren't recommending I eat some sort of weird, root from the backyard. You know what I mean? Because there was no clinical data. You know what I mean? Everyone would laugh me out of the room, as opposed to this. This is almost like a civil right being taken away, that they're not following the science essentially. Um, it's incredibly, the cognitive dissonance that in that, is just surreal to me. I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah, she's framing him as being dishonest, and he's like, "No, even if I did say that, if the data says something else, like, I'm gonna have to follow the data." So it's this is where that, like, yes, he might have helped him to be like, "Oh, if I did say that, I misspoke because if the data's gonna lead me in a safer direction of going there." Um, but yeah, it's very troubling. She's tough to listen to. She's on that kind of, yeah.
So another thing that he got hit on at this, at this hearing was all the CDC, scientists, that or experts that left, out of a form of protest, so to speak. Let's see, what he had to hear say about that.
Yeah, Senator, this morning I got the latest numbers from CDC that 76.4% of Americans now have a chronic disease. This is stunning. When my uncle was president, it was 11%. 1950, it was 3%. Today, it's 76.4%. 8 out of 10 of our kids cannot qualify for military service. This is a national security issue. When my uncle was president, we spent zero on chronic disease. Today, we spend $1.3 trillion. It's the biggest cause, it's increasing. And all of the arguments that Republicans and Democrats have about single payer, Obamacare, or the various ways of allocate the health dollars, they're all like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. If we don't end this chronic disease, we are the sickest country in the world. That's why we have to fire people at CDC. They did not do their job. This was their job to keep us healthy.
Thank you,
And I need to fire some of those people to make sure this doesn't happen again.
So the best way I know to talk about this is, and when you think about it, I mean, imagine, Doc, if you went from 11%, what do you say, 11% had a chronic disease? So imagine if you went from 11% to 76%. You had 11% of your patients who didn't get better to 76% of your patients not getting better. What would happen to your business?
I mean, I'd probably be in a lawsuit at least once or twice every year. Yeah, but they have immunity against most of these, injuries that can be caused by medicine. So yeah, it's not a good look. And that's the thing where you want to start questioning these people who have been there for decades. It's like under your tenure, the health has deteriorated in this country ridiculously, exponentially. So why would you listen to anybody who's been there for a long period of time? You've done nothing our life expectancy has dropped for the first time since 19, right? That's ridiculous. Like, we put more money into healthcare, supposedly it's called healthcare, than any country. So how we are so heavy and how we are so sick and how we're so stressed out is wild.
Yeah, and, even, it's amazing they keep beating this drum because, I even saw there was an article from the New York Times, you may have seen it. There was this, pull up, I think it was a push up, pull up challenge,
Oh, yeah.
that Secretary Kennedy and a few others in the government, did. And the New York Times comes up with this article saying experts warn against push ups and pull ups. It was just like, yeah, I mean, certainly if you've been, if you're 300 pounds and been sitting up, you haven't worked out in the last decade, you want to be, you can use some common sense and be careful on how you get into our exercise routine. But we are literally getting into the realm of experts saying that exercise is controversial, and just to try to discredit someone they politically disagree with. And that's, when experts are doing that, they're no longer experts. They're just, to me, political people at that point. And that's something that I think Secretary Kennedy summed up pretty well. And let's check out this next clip.
Do you believe COVID-19 was politicized?
Yeah, the whole process was politicized. Senator, I mean, we were lied to about everything. We were lied to about natural immunity. We were lied to about, we were told again and again the vaccines would prevent transmission, they prevent infection. It wasn't true. They knew it from the start it wasn't true because that's what the animal studies and the clinical trials showed. We were told that there was science behind cloth masks. The CDC allowed the teachers union to write the order closing our schools, which hurt working people all over the country, and then pretend it was science-based. All of these issues, and then I can show you, like, for example, Chairman Wyden was talking about me politicizing ACIP. During COVID, probably the most famous scientist on ACIP was Martin Kulldorff from Harvard, the great, world-renowned epidemiologist and vaccinologist. And he criticized the COVID booster mandates. They ejected him from COVID because he wasn't in the orthodoxy. The two biggest health officials at FDA during COVID, Dr. Gruber and Dr. Krause, criticized the Biden mandates, vaccine mandate. President Biden said in August, I would never take that vaccine, the Trump vaccine. And he came in, he mandated it, and then he fired the two top health officials at FDA who said, hey, this thing has not been properly tested. So the whole process was politicized, and even today.
So I'm 15.
So, yeah, I mean, it's devolved into this political process almost, and it's continuing to go on. And I'm not going to say that I agree with everything that, rubber stamp every belief that Secretary Kennedy has by any stretch. But the idea that these experts are infallible, and there wasn't experts on the other side saying this doesn't make sense, but it wasn't politically lined up, and they were ousted too. So, I mean, it's really a frustrating process, and I don't think the medical community is really learning the lessons of this, which is kind of frustrating.
Yeah, when you can't attack the argument, you attack the person. So as soon as they differ from your position and you don't have a good follow-up to their point, their position, or what they framed, then you're going to say they're a clap, they do this, they believe in this thing personally, and like they discredit all of their experience, training, and education. That's if we look every day, that's what we're seeing across the political spectrum. And it's definitely in healthcare.
So it's wild to me. I mean, and that fills into my point right there. And look, there's people who throw out some crazy stuff. Okay, I mean, I've had patients who told me that they've been doing frog venom or something like that to like treat certain conditions and stuff like that. So there's some crazy stuff out there on the alternative side. There's no doubt. But I mean, this idea that it's all a communication issue. They are either, as he using his own words, either willfully ignorant to the misinformation, disinformation, however you want to place it. I just like to call it lies that were told us so many times about, especially during COVID. I feel like it's been emerged a lot more, but a lot of other things. I mean, we could go back decades and talk about how we were lied to about the impacts of sugar versus fat on our health. So there's been a long history of lying to the American people about what health really means. And as we continue to see, they just keep doubling down. They keep thinking that they're right about everything, and they refuse to take any responsibility or have even an ounce of humility, to be honest.
I go back to, it comes back to money. There's a lot of money in these arguments, and people have a lot to lose when you start going through data and showing an actual argument that it may not, the price of healthcare could be a lot cheaper than it is based on you going following the actual data. It's sad, but it also goes down to the high IQ, low EQ thing. Usually it's a ratio. The smarter you are, the less, emotional and agreeable you can be. And then it's hard for you to communicate with patients that you're also, look, physicians are overworked. Let's call spade a spade. Like, they have to get in and out of the room really quick. They don't have time to sit there and explain everything, nor do they have time to go through every epidemiological study to make sure that what their drug reps and standard of care is telling them to do is correct. So I don't know if fault physicians, but the ones setting standards of care, the ones doing the propagandizing, they're the ones that really need to be held accountable.
I think that's a good point. I mean, these are not I mean, I know plenty of physicians here locally who don't, we have very similar views on these topics. So it's not always the people in the trenches, and people forget that, healthcare has been, we kind of have this corporate healthcare to a certain extent, and doctors don't, in a lot of situations, especially if they're owned by big hospitals, they have metrics they need to meet. They need to prescribe certain, amounts of medications and for certain diagnoses. So they have, they don't have the freedom that a lot of us think they have. And so I think that's important to realize, don't take this as every doctor is bad and, doesn't care. A lot of them understand this, but they're handcuffed. And I feel like that's a lot of the burnout that they're seeing on their side of things too. But anyway, moving on, all this kind of vaccine policy is not just happening in Washington. We even saw it here in our home state of Florida. Our Surgeon General here, Dr. Ladapo, made a pretty groundbreaking announcement when it comes to mandating vaccines. And we're going to talk more about the difference between being able to get vaccines versus mandating vaccines. Let's see what he had to say.
But what I'm most excited about is an announcement that we're making now, which is that the Florida Department of Health, in partnership with the governor, is going to be working to end all vaccine mandates in Florida law. All of them. All of them. All of them. Every last one of them. Yeah. Every last one of them. All of them. Every last one of them. Every last one of them is wrong and drips with disdain and slavery. Okay? Who am I as a government or anyone else, or who am I as a man standing here now to tell you what you should put in your body? Who am I to tell you what your child should put in your body? I don't have that right. Your body is a gift from God. What you put into your body is because of your relationship with your body and your God. I don't have that right. Government does not have that right. They want you to believe they have that right. And unfortunately, they've been successful.
So just so everyone has the proper context for this, all this means is that you are no longer mandated to have certain vaccine or any vaccine to do things like go to school. That's all that means. But Doc, what's your thoughts on this change?
I never understood the vaccine mandates. Once again, if you're vaccinated, you should have no problem being around an unvaccinated person. They don't really pose a threat to you because you're vaccinated. So I never understood it. I got to use a religious exemption as a child. So I didn't really, my life was very normal. People generally would be like, oh, wow, you're less resilient than I would be then. That's what Burger mentality was. Yeah, I don't remember making an appointment with that doctor for my vaccination, for my immunology schedule. Like these people aren't our physicians. We don't choose them. I mean, very indirectly do we choose the surgeons general, and where we choose the people who make these decisions. What we should be able to get to choose is our doctor and have our customized care. This stuff across the board doesn't make any sense. And also, I mean, when we talked about this earlier, to render care, you have to have informed consent. A mandate negates that whole thing. You're now getting care under duress. So it's not even ethical to have a mandate like that, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. And, one thing people may not realize in Florida, there's a no questions asked religious exemption as it is. So really, the only thing that's changed here is that you've gotten a whole lot more people who don't have to lie about their religion, I guess, or religious practices anymore. Is really the only thing that has changed with this announcement. And I agree with you on the whole concept of vaccines is that once you get it, you shouldn't be in any danger. Now, I'll play a little devil's advocate with you. What do you say to the people who are going to say, "Well, hey, my child is immune suppressed and can't get a vaccine"? What do you say to those folks?
I'll make sure my kid's not really sick around you. Like I don't once, and this is I also want to drive this point home too. Just because you don't vaccinate your child doesn't rubber stamp their health for good either.
Oh, right, absolutely.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. If you're gonna like, oh, well, we're healthy and we're natural, we're not gonna vaccinate, but we're gonna eat a lot of processed food, maybe be on screens a lot, never be outside, never play, don't play sports. You're still gonna have a sick child, and they're gonna have severe infections as if they were vaccinated supposedly. So you can't just throw the baby out with that water. You do have to do all the other things. Um, but yeah, I never understood it. It never made sense to me. I never understood the dogma against it. But that'd be my argument. It's my body, my choice, my health, my outcome. If you believe you're ultimately responsible for your health, you're not really worried about anybody else.
Yeah, and I would also say that, there's a lot of things that we don't have vaccines for. I would say an immune suppressed child is probably it's a lot more dangerous to have some sort of antibiotic resistant infection, bacteria infection, or something like that. It's going to be a much bigger danger than I didn't, my kid that doesn't have the chickenpox vaccine. I think those much bigger risk profile there. So I want to pivot into kind of wrapping this together in a bow, like what the all these changes has created this frenzy of it's like a public health apocalypse. Like we're gonna have all of these um old diseases come back. We're gonna have a huge public health crisis. And that seems like a kind of an overreaction. I think a lot of people are still gonna get vaccinated. You're just gonna have people with more choice. Probably people kind of following through with just being able to do the same behavior they've already been doing, frankly. And I think it's really gonna be a good thing. We should be having bigger discussions. We shouldn't be afraid to say, "Hey, there is this potential danger." Actually giving our patients, informed consent about these medical decisions instead of this idea of just doing the greater good. That this is a greater good to have everyone not ask any questions, hide all these, potential downfalls of vaccination or any kind of medical treatment. I don't think we're gonna see a real shift in a negative way our public health. What do you think?
I think they'll start testing for stuff now, and I think they'll try to drive the case rate high to make their argument. And then in a few more years, when there's another administration in, they'll try to undo this stuff. That's kind of, unfortunately, my view is pretty bleak. Um, and they're going to push the data in every direction they can to make their point. So I don't, you won't see deaths. That's what you won't see because, we're very good at not dying of infectious disease. But you'll see higher case rates, maybe. Maybe you'll see more measles rashes with the kids that don't get it. And that's where it goes back to what else are you doing to strengthen your child's health?
Right.
Because if you're, that's what it comes down to. And I would want that to be the battle cry of is you have to do the other things. Regardless what your vaccination status, you have to do everything else.
And I hope that brings, further discussions in that, and I would say that's a thing that I hope we hear more about. I mean, we've heard a lot about vaccines. I do want, from this whole, MAHA movement, if we wanna call it that, I wanna hear more about that. I wanna hear more about, um, making sure you're getting vitamin D, making sure you're getting out in the sun, make sure, let's continue to educate people to exercise and move. I think these are all very positive things. I was thrilled to see the presidential, physical fitness test came back. I did that as a kid. I don't know if that was something you had a kid, and even that was controversial. Like, how is that controversial? We have, the obesity and, type 2 diabetes, which is obesity driven. Um, the highest, growth in that diagnosis is in adolescence. And to me, that is a infinitely higher risk to public health than getting rid of vaccine mandates. It's not even close. Because, the more the risk of the comorbidity risk of type 2 diabetes and other obesity ridden conditions is much worse than the chicken pox. I mean, you're never going to convince me. I mean, the data is pretty clear on that. And I think that's where we have to maybe put a lot more of our energy is, how do we should be much more enraged on this chronic health. 76% of Americans with chronic health than we are vaccination. I think we have the wrong priorities as far as public health, and I hope that this starts getting some more attention to that.
Yeah, he said 76% have chronic illness, over 70% are overweight or obese. So then you're looking at a strict linear correlation right there. And obesity is a diagnosis. So you're going to have to talk about that. And he is one of the only health secretaries I've ever seen who actually looks fit for someone in his demographic. The last that was they don't know what they're talking about with health. And when it comes back to those health experts warning against push-ups and pull-ups, let me look at them and let me see their blood work, and I'll tell you if I want to trust them with my health. Because if you're not doing what you know, I don't listen to you. So, yeah.
Well, man, this is a great discussion. I really appreciate you joining me and taking the time to kind of dive into this, because it's like I'm glad we're in a position now, at least, where we can have these discussions. Although, if we were trying to do this podcast 4 years ago, and we'd be we'd get taken off before we started. So it's really kind of a breath of fresh air to even be having these discussions. So I appreciate you doing it. So I'm curious what everyone else thinks. Leave me some comments what you think about this issue. Obviously, we have a little bit of a bias towards one direction or the other. And my kids, for context, my kids do have some vaccines. I'm not totally against vaccines. I think there can be some appropriate times when vaccinations are implicated, but I just want us to be able to have an honest discussion of it. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at NeuroTrition Podcast, and leave us a comment. We'd love to have a deeper discussion, or talk about some other topics that you guys want to hear about. We'll see you next time on the show. I'm Dr. Zetaman. See you next time.